Thank you. I'd like to go ahead and call to order the February 16, 2016 Warenton Board of Aldermen meeting. I'd like to start with the Pledge of Allegiance. If you would all rise, please. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Right. First on the agenda would be the consent agenda.
The only item on the consent agenda is the regular meeting minutes from February 2nd, 2016.
Anybody have any questions on that? Comments? All right, I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda items, which would be the regular meeting minutes from February 2nd, 2016.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Alderman Dreyer, seconded by Alderperson Holly. If we can have a roll call vote, please.
Alderman Dreyer?
Yes.
Alderman Holly?
Yes.
Alderperson Casterly?
Yes.
Alderman Ock?
Yes.
Alderman Deloy.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries 5-0. Next on the agenda will be hearing from the public. We ask that you step forward to the podium and announce who you are, and keep it to a 5 minute maximum. Well, we're trying to make it a little longer.
Okay, we're here for you.
That's okay. We want to hear from the public. And here. Not seeing anybody, we'll move on to the next item. And that would be the Board of Aldermen comments.
I don't know.
I don't comment, I just text.
Oh.
I'm not going to touch that. All right, next item would be the mayor comments. I'd like for to pass along, thanks for everybody, the crews that were able to clear the roads and really help out. They did a great job. And not that they ever do a bad job, but I just wanted to pass along, I appreciate it. So if you would, I'd thank you for that. Next item would be the items removed from the consent agenda.
Yeah, I asked for the annual reports to be taken out of the consent agenda just because I think it gives the public an opportunity to hear, some of the stuff that the department heads do, and maybe gives us an opportunity to ask some questions, because I think if they're buried in the consent agenda, I think sometimes we lose the meeting and the importance of what's being done on a regular basis. So, I was kind of reviewing some of these and just to kind of get a feel for, what we really see. And when I was looking at it's interesting, I was coming home tonight, and I was driving by, and we had this big 5-year placard as you come in town about trees. We're a tree city for the last 5 years. And then I looked at Brad's report for ground and maintenance, and it looks like probably 40% of our time deals with handling vegetation, like cutting grass, trimming trees, doing all that stuff. So with that placard becomes a certain amount of work that goes along with it for it to create a green community. So I think the people really need to know that how much time is spent by the department just maintaining green areas, taking care of trees, doing work at the cemetery, and all those things that are, part of what makes the community look the way it does. And I think that needs to be recognized. And I don't know if the department head has any comment, or you have any comment about it, Brad? But
yeah, I mean, for the year on just like, for instance, on mowing, we spent 3,036 hours mowing. In the tree cleanup, what we do for cleaning up trees, mulch, leaves, and all that, we had 834 hours on that. And then our maintenance, which includes, mowers and everything else kind of goes with that. We had over 1,700 hours just in maintenance that we do. I mean, that's just a little bit of it. We got quite a bit more, but those are just kind of the highlights of it. So,
I mean, like I said, I think people need to recognize that there's a significant amount of time spent in keeping the community. We always tend to talk about weed ordinance violations and all that, but among the city, there's a significant amount of time we spend just maintaining the city, and I think that needs to be recognized as part of the annual reports. I don't know if anybody else has a comment on that.
No, I agree, and I think that's a discussion as when it was asked to be removed, I believe it was agreed upon to just kind of give some highlights from each section, from each department head, to briefly just speak about what has gone on. So, next one would be the Public Works.
A few things I have, and one of the big things was we have an annual, yearly wet test that we do. That we take samples out of the stream, and we put the state puts fish with them, and the fish got to live for so long. We pass that, and they call that the wet test. They do an upstream and downstream sample to see what the impact is on the stream. That's a big part of at the wastewater plant. Another big part is our BODs is biologically oxygen demand, and our limits are 30 and we're 4, and our total suspended solids is a 2 and our limits are 30. So we're way below our limits of what we need at the wastewater plant. Another big part is our routine flushing for sewers. We averaged about 102,000 feet of sewer flushing. That's the truck going out and doing routine flushing in the sewer mains. That keeps a lot of sewer calls down and keeps the lines open up so we don't have SSOs. Our well production for this year is down 538,000. But that fluctuates. I looked at the last year, and that goes up and down depending on the summer and how hot it is and how much people are watering.
I think to me, the one thing that also stands out on the report that you didn't mention, sometimes we talk about hauling sludge out of the plant. I mean, we hauled over 2 million gallons of sludge and had to distribute that in areas.
And out in the field that the city owns, we spread the sludge on the field, and it was 2 million gallons of sludge, and it comes out to be 856 loads that we're hauling out in the fields. And the dry percentage of what the percent sludge is 1.60. So a lot of it is just water. And our goal is to switch that to a dry sludge. So we're not hauling water, we're hauling more solids than sludge. And that will cut our loads down quite a bit, and the fuel cost in that, and equipment.
Well, thank you. Did you have another one?
No, that's fine.
Next one would be the annual police report.
I'd just like to recognize that in 2015, with our increased collaboration with the East Central Drug Task Force and the detectives from the Warren County Sheriff's Department, our detective bureau, in collaboration with those other departments, did quite a bit of extensive drug investigation that resulted in, well, the 2 largest seizures were over 5 pounds of methamphetamine. One was on a traffic stop, one was on a search warrant. There was like 7 arrests that came out of just that one incident. Also, kind of meshed with that is our increased cooperation with the Drug Enforcement Administration, who's been absolutely wonderful in helping us conduct the investigations into the heroin overdoses, tracking that down until their ultimate ends. A bunch of arrests have been made in that. And I also like to say our detective bureau has done an outstanding job in the capture of what I like to call the 2-person crime ring, which is also drug related, which resulted in the recovery of stolen vehicles and over $15,000 in stolen property.
That's huge.
If you look at, I'm kind of curious about this, if you look at the totals on the sheet, and I don't know what you call the totals, but there was 27,444 total events or actions. This year it jumped to 38,000. It looked like the biggest jump was in direct patrols. So could you kind of give me an idea of what would be classified as a direct patrol?
The increase in the number is in the way that we worked with our dispatch center, who ultimately generates the call in the first place. All calls, all patrols, they're directed or extra in nature are now directed patrol. So there's one category now. Second, our guys have made a major increase in the patrols of the parks and the schools, and they're calling out each one of those, which gets logged, which increases the number.
So is this the first year in a while we've been close to a full staff? Because I know for a while we were short patrolmen.
And we're short one now.
Short one now, so that also reflects in the numbers.
Yes, sir.
But with that, I'll piggyback on that, and you could correct me if I'm wrong, but calling out some of those directed patrols actually gives a time frame, so if there is a property damage, the detective can narrow a frame, or another investigator narrow a time frame that we can pinpoint what to look for and do more of a canvassing and asking if anybody saw anybody in a period of time, which helps us solve crimes.
And then that in conjunction with the surveillance video, we've got
I
a
think
window to
it's
go look.
excellent. I think it's a great idea. Any other questions or comments? Thank you. Next will be building code enforcement report.
One of the big accomplishments we made in the past year was we scanned, labeled, moved, and organized approximately 8,000 plans that we had here at City Hall. We've got them all on electronic backup, and they're moved up top the hill to the other Brad's building. Organized makes it so much easier when somebody needs a plan, we get right to it, whether they need a hard copy or just send them an electronic copy. And for property maintenance violations, we processed 597 of them. In April, we started implementing a courtesy notice policy where we'd issue a courtesy notice prior to notice of violation or summons. And I believe it's been a big success so far. 79% of all the courtesy notices issued has been resolved without having to go the next step of notices of violations. I think the residents have responded quite well to that. I think it's a big plus for us. In the building department, we issued 146 permits, and we performed 434 field inspections.
How many?
434 field inspections.
Any questions or comments? Thank you.
You're welcome,
Appreciate it. Next will be the annual admin report.
We have had in 2015 71 meetings. I know it seems like maybe even more than that, but 71 meetings total that have produced some kind of minutes or records for those meetings for the city files. We had a total of 13 employee accidents and incidents. Of those, 4 resulted in an actual workman's comp claim for those employees. One of those was a property liability claim from an accident at the pool. And the others were reports that did not produce any kind of official claim, but were resolved prior to that. Staff conducted a total of 73 interviews, which resulted in 11 new hires for the city for the year. There were a total of 11 safety committee meetings and 166 safety talk trainings were conducted throughout the department. So safety has this year become quite a focus. I think it's been successful for the most part in what we've been able to accomplish in reducing those workers' comp claims. So it'll be a number of years before we actually see the result of that in our premium, but you have to start somewhere to resolve that and make it better. So it has been a big focus for us this last year.
I'll make a comment on that one
Sure.
because that's one of my hot topics, as Terry knows. And I think we should, as a board, see those safety committee meetings, notes, whatever the minutes are from
You
those
should be
again.
getting those
Yeah,
now.
because the last one was very informative. At our work comp renewal, we suffer greatly from our experience. We're not large enough, so every one of these work comp claims really does hurt premium-wise. So So this is important. It might not seem important to the people who have to sit through them when they have something to mow or do, but they are very important.
Any other comments or questions? Nope.
Well, I probably should have put the mayor comments down at this level, because I'm going to tell you. Number one, thank you, Alderman Ock, for requesting this. I do think it's essential that people know what's going on. But more so than anything else, and something that's seems like it's a constant combat, is that we have to combat conjectures and rumors that seem to run rampant sometimes around the city. And these statistics and these numbers that our department heads work very hard to give us, aid us in being able to give numbers to people who want to just run rampant on what one person says or wants to twist into something. We can give hard facts to our numbers of what's going on. And I appreciate that, because sometimes we get hit with things and we're in between trying to look at you guys for numbers, and you've always been able to get us the answers we need, and I appreciate that. Besides the fact that it helps stifle some of the rumors and cut it right out. So, thank you. All right, moving on to the next item. The Hickory Lick Road construction bid.
And this time, we're different.
Yeah, I noticed that. Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, Board. My name is Kurt Daniels with Cochran Engineering.
How you doing, sir?
Good, doing well. Make it pretty short and simple. February 9th, the bids were collected for the Hickory Lick Road improvements. Basically have a recommendation letter in front of you. We're recommending TS Banzi for the low bidder. We've worked with Banzi quite a bit, find them to be a very good company to work with, very responsive to what we need at times. So what we're recommending is that TS Banzi be awarded the contract in the sum of $973,588.53 with alternate one.
What is the alternate?
Thank
The alternate is message boards. What we do on these is we actually have a lot of times they rent them, they bring them in. What we did in this opportunity is they're going to give the message boards to you after the project's done. So they get new message boards, they bring them in after the project's done. I know you guys, the car shows, anything going on out at the park area, you can actually use these message boards to inform citizens, lane closure, sewer, whatever. So they're message boards that the city will actually keep. So it's the 3-line message boards, I think.
So is it like on a trailer?
Yeah, it's on the trailer with the big message board that you typically see. You can program in what you need to say that day. Like I said, car show.
Happy
Christmas.
birthday, Gary.
You can do Happy Birthday, Gary. You can put it in front of your house.
Was that part of our original contemplation? Was that?
Yeah, we do that a lot of times, and I know back in the beginning when we talked about that to put that in there. It's an alternate. It's everything came in within budget, so I mean it is an alternate.
How many message boards are there?
Does the city have any? No, don't.
No, but there's two for
Two in
the
Yeah,
alternate
there's two here.
reflects two?
Yes. A lot of cities, they use them in a lot of different avenues. I mean, they're good to have, like I said, whether it's maintenance on roadways, you let the public know that these will be the cities. You can use them throughout the city in the future, however you need to.
Well, let me ask a question. I mean, maybe somebody else sees it this way. Seem kind of pricey?
No, they really don't. Guy, did you, or were, I don't want to put Guy on the spot.
Go ahead.
It's actually a good value, because these contractors buy quite a few. They work with these companies quite a bit, so it's not uncommon for us to see them 20,000+. So I think the 18 and change is what they were here. Per
Would we
unit.
normally rent them otherwise?
Yeah, what would happen is a lot of times we put this in the contract, and whether a contractor has them or whatever, they might charge you $5,000, $7,000 a piece. Then when they leave, they go ahead and take them back. So what we do is we put them down there as an alternate, and then the city has the option to accept them and keep them for future use.
I mean, you know, I don't mind, well, I do mind approving the base, but aside from my personal
We
issues,
expect that.
have we talked through the need to spend that money on these, the usage? Could we approve the core and then pick up the alternate after a discussion, or, I'm just kind of curious as to.
It's
lot
the
of money for two
anticipated usage would
message,
be.
it's a lot of money for two message boards, and would we use them a lot? Do we see, I mean, can somebody talk to me about the alternate?
But a big part of it is when we had the issues with the wells and getting the information out there. You could use them for that, to put them on each into town saying, you know, we have a, what we call a water crisis issue. We could use them for the car shows. We could use them to direct traffic when we have a wreck on the interstate. We could set them up here, and run them that way. It's something we don't have, but once we do have them, I'm sure we're gonna use them, because we'll come up with other things to use them for. The car show, the fall festival.
You could use them for the sports sign-up
Sports
dates.
complex, we can do that tournament, right off the ramp, coming up the ramp, tournament.
Would
Welcome.
the highway department allow you to set them on the ramp?
Well, not on the ramp, but we
Well,
can
in the
get
area?
them somewhere.
And that's one
We
thing.
can always put them up, and then they tell us to move them, but that time of the week is.
Just like the other signs in town.
I was there thinking, I wonder if we could take this out of the tourist budget.
How much are
It's
these?
something on the
18,000?
we've talked about
Okay.
as staff
Okay.
in times when, and particularly what I remember is the water crisis.
Boiler.
And the need to be able to get a message out to the public, to do it quickly, to put it in locations that are noticeable. And the only option that we currently have is we have to go have banners made. So you've got the delay in time to be able to put it where this would give us an immediate opportunity if there's an emergency message that needs to go out. So we've talked about the need for this type of sign on numerous occasions. We've never had the ability to be able to fund them, because honestly, from what I remember, when we looked at just a straight purchase, they were about $27,000 a piece, was the best price we could get, and it was always cost prohibitive. So I do believe there's a lot of ability to use these. Now, do they have to be bought as part of this project? No, we could certainly look at something else, but it was an opportunity to be able to have them when this is completed.
I think that's my concern. I mean, I don't disagree with the benefit of having them. I just don't feel like it's the right thing to combine them with this project just because we can. I mean, is there a way to line item them in a budget or?
You're getting them a lot cheaper now.
Yeah.
Than what it
Well,
would
long
be on a
separate. If you
normal.
bundle them, it's cheap.
And we're still gonna need a message boards for when we shut down Hickory Lick. So we're gonna have rental for them. It's
The
still gonna
cost
be
of it.
put in place.
And in the future road jobs, you have them, so that's something that would not have to be included in your future road job bids. So in the grand scheme of things, you're saving money on the next road job you do, because we don't put it in the contractor, the city has them. So you save 3,000 or 5,000, 10,000, 15,000 pretty quick on future jobs.
If we have them, I would want to just come up with some sort of guidelines for using them, because once people know we have them, every group's going to want their little message, you know, out there.
I'm guessing, but the city attorney has told us on multiple occasions that if you open up the city communication avenues to one entity,
You have to
you
open
must
it to
open
everyone.
it up to
So
everyone.
we just-
So there would be, my belief would be that there would be no ability publicly to use these boards.
Well, we
for
could set
messages.
guidelines on
Yeah.
what we use it for within the city, though.
Yes, same as the message board out front, I would think we would use.
And a part of that is if we have a good-sized water leak, we got a whole subdivision that has a oil advisory, it takes time for us to go out and hang cards. We can put up the signs, get the sign up, then we got time to go hang our cards on everybody. That way, somebody pulls in the subdivision, they know they have a oil advisory out, and it's communication. I'm sure that'll help with DNR, let us know we're getting communicated, we're communicating better with the public on issues that might be going on.
What's our budgeted amount? Sorry, Gary.
No.
What's our budgeted amount for this project?
$1,100,000. Sorry, Gary.
Beast.
You know, what we might consider doing, if it would make you feel better about this particular project, including it, we could leave this in as part of this during the time that this construction is happening, and then include in next year's budget for perhaps water and sewer to reimburse a portion back to the street fund, if you will, for a portion of these message boards, because I think once they're ours, we're gonna use them in multiple departments. It's not all gonna be street use.
Well, I guess there's two pluses for them. One is they're cheaper than what you guys say they were, and we'd also be spending 10 grand just to rent, so.
Yes.
I guess you have to net off the cost, the 10 grand, because you're not gonna be out of pocket the whole amount, because you still have to pay for part of it.
Right. I'm not disagreeing with the benefit of having them, but I like your approach as far as where are we allocating the funds properly for the purchase of them. So,
So how are we going to approach it?
We need to make a motion.
We'll make the motion, but how are we going to make the amount? With the alternate or without the alternate?
Whoever makes the motion determines that.
Well, I think for purposes of this, because remember, we are involved with state funds and bids that have to be approved, I would prefer you just
With
approve
the-
this, and then we'll deal with the other part on the other end.
okay.
Because I'm afraid it's gonna cause us to get into problems with our MoDOT approvals and such if we start trying to be creative.
So the amount you're asking is with the alternative?
Yes, please.
All right, I'll make a motion that we approve the bid for $973,588.53 to the lowest bidder of TS Banzi Construction for the Hickory Lick Road Maintenance Improvement Project.
Second.
Do you have to say that?
Yes.
The low bid contingent upon MoDOT concurrence, because that's something I would normally say.
No, but it's something that needs to be added.
I'll second it again.
Thank you. Motion made by Alderperson Casterly, seconded by Alderman Deloy. If I could have a roll call vote, please.
Alderman Holly?
Yes.
Alderperson Casterly?
Yes.
Alderman Ock?
Yes.
Alderman Deloy,
Yes.
Alderman Dreyer?
Yes.
Motion carries
I'm
5-0.
proud of you because I don't know how to do
Sorry.
CPR.
I'd probably fall over so we walk out of the meeting. so.
All right, next item on the, thank you very much as well.
Thank
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda would be discussion topics and review of the draft ordinance regarding fireworks within the city.
Well, I think the only issue that came up on this last time was a discussion about putting a contingency related to kids under a certain age would be in violation, and, I thought a lot about that. I still think I have a problem if that was in the draft ordinance, because the reality is, and I don't know if police officers are mandated court reporters or not, but if an officer saw a child inappropriately using firecrackers and parents weren't supervising it, I don't know if it's the city's business to enforce that. I think the Division of Family Services or some other entity would probably be more appropriate. And I just think it would make the task even more difficult. So I still don't have a problem leaving off the age out of the ordinance.
No, I don't either. And I do appreciate the time frame maxing out at 10 p.m. However, I would expect at 10 p.m. that we are strongly enforcing the no firework ordinance.
Any comments? I'd agree with all those. I think we're going on the right road to get this rectified, and it'll probably save us a little time, and at least in the law enforcement end, on those days, on the 4th of July. You got anything to input there, Mr.
No,
Or Mr.
Me or him?
Lieutenant Eller, whichever.
You go ahead.
I was gonna put the.
Yeah, I was
attorney on
I was
spot.
in agreeance with the cutoff at 10. Mainly the complaints come from people who have to get up and go to work the next day.
I agree. What about you, Mr. Gravel? You got anything to comment on this?
Well, like I said, the age was just reading off the city of Wentzville's ordinance, and when I had a chance to kind of look at Wentzville's ordinance, there's a lot of extra layers they put into place as far as seizing fireworks and whatnot. I think this is a pretty simple way to handle it, and it's a pretty clean way to read the ordinance. You can shoot it off during this time frame, and after that, we enforce it. So I think it actually works out pretty well the way it's written.
I think it'd be great for putting those new signs through town that tell people 10 o'clock is maxing out.
And strictly enforced.
So, but I mean, the law doesn't, they got a lot of layers in Wentzville, but the ordinance doesn't prohibit the police are dealing with a safety issue.
Absolutely not.
You
No,
know,
they will
so-
always have.
So we don't
safety
really
power.
need those layers, because because obviously, if you see somebody with an appropriate device or something more serious, we can deal with that under intersections of the law.
Seems as though the Wentzville ordinance was the product of a lot of discussion on both sides that kind of had some compromise in it that just doesn't seem to be the controversy here. So they probably broke some ground that we didn't have to deal with. So I think it's pretty simple and it'll work. And if it doesn't work this year, we can always come back and look at it for next year.
Excellent. Well, thank you. All right, next on the agenda, we'll be hearing from Director of Operations and Finance Officer Terry Thorne.
So can I back up to the previous topic?
By
So
all
then,
means.
Is the decision to move this then to ordinance next meeting in its format here?
I don't have any issue with it in the format
I
that it's
have no
in.
problem with that.
Yep.
Okay.
So,
Tony?
unless there is any, I think we can move forward with it.
And then there will be a new discussion topic started for next meeting, correct?
Yeah, you gonna give us a hint?
We really need to discuss the Agape property line issue
Okay.
and get some resolution to that. So I would recommend that being the next topic for discussion.
Okay. I don't see any
I
issue
really
with it.
do not have operational updates unless there's questions that someone has for me.
Well, when is the Hickory Lick project now going to officially start?
There's a very specific time frame from the date that the contract is awarded until the date that the project has to at least be started. So I think we talked about toward the end of July.
End of July, beginning of August.
But isn't that in the middle of ball season?
Well, it is, but they're gonna start with the temporary road construction first, which doesn't really affect Hickory Lick or any of that. And that has to be in place before they physically start the construction anyway. So it will meet the requirements as long as there is some construction started. So they'll start with putting in the gravel road, getting that all set up, the fencing that's required by that all in place. And that'll take some time to get done, so that by the time that's completed and they actually start on the Hickory Lick Road, fall season will be over. There may be a couple of tournaments that are in there in the fall, if there actually are fall tournaments. But it's the best schedule that can be worked out to make it all work.
It's really either ball season, soccer season, or winter. So
And
it's not going to be a convenient time.
It's an 8-month project is what they're telling us. So regardless, there's going to be a time when something is going on. We just try to avoid the ball league season, which is when there's the most vehicle traffic
Yeah,
out
if I
there.
remember right, I think some of the tournaments, I think one of the latter tournaments was in August or September. I think it was one of the latter of the tournaments,
Yes.
if I remember right.
And they're aware
So,
of that. We actually talked with TSM and said, okay, here's what we're up against. And they said they would prefer actually to start earlier and be finished before the spring of next year than to push it up into the start of ball season next year. So everyone's kind of in agreement. This is not great, but it's the best we have to work with.
Excellent. Any other questions?
And we will send notification out to the property owners that, because they're gonna be going off of what street to go through the trailer area to get to the ball fields, is that correct? I can't remember the streets.
Yes.
So we'll give a notice to all the property owners in the area that the traffic's being redirected through that area for a limited time period for the purposes of the road then.
Yes, I think the next step is to obtain the required MoDOT approval of the contract. Once that's done, then we will have a timeline.
Okay.
So once we get that timeline, then I think the notification, when the contractor says, okay, this is when we're actually gonna have the temporary road in place, and this is the anticipated date that Hickory Lick is gonna be shut down, at that point, I think we need to let those property owners know far ahead of time, so that they can plan accordingly.
Any questions or comments? All right, thank you. Next on the agenda would be hearing from Maintenance and Grounds Director Brad Bruzicus.
Good evening. We have the annual electrician bid and make a recommendation to accept Roger OMB Sales and Service.
Brett, how does this work when he needs to drop what he is working on and come? for emergency hours.
That's exactly what he does.
So,
He's here within 2 hours.
so that doesn't mean if we have to pay emergency costs.
Depends on what it is. If it's an emergency, yes, we do. If it's,
Well, it's the same cost for
Yeah.
emergency as it is on,
right, but
Okay.
most of the time, if, you
Yeah.
know, if we have a problem at the treatment plant, he
Yeah.
will drop what he's doing and come out and assess it and try to fix it.
Any questions or comments?
so just during the day. So if it's like 2 o'clock in the afternoon and he's working on something else, he'll charge
Same
us
thing.
112.
Or drop?
And
No,
it
that's
just-
the regular hour rate.
No. When he
No,
needs-
the regular rate is $75.
Yeah, but when he needs to drop something is what I mean.
But if it's,
That-
if he needs to come during the day, it's the,
75.
yes, if it's just,
So I
if he's
guess
just
if-
working for us, it's 75. If we have to call him in special to come in, then that's where the emergency rate is, and that's the $112 minimum.
So
which
if you're
is
scheduling a project, he
Yeah.
knows about days in advance.
Yeah, it's
You're at the
$75.
$75 rate.
Right. But it's something at night or during the day or in the morning or something would happen somewhere, he would have to drop what he's doing, then it turns to the 112.
Any other questions, comments? All right, I'll entertain a motion to award the general repair electrician bid to Roger Olnby Sales and Services.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Alderperson Holly, seconded by Alderman Delloy. If I could have a roll call vote, please.
Alderperson Casterly?
Yes.
Alderman Ock?
Yes.
Alderman Deloy,
Yes.
Alderman Dreyer?
Yes.
Alderman Holly?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Next is the general plumber bid. I'd like to recommend that we go with Michelson Plumbing.
Questions or comments?
Can he provide the additional services that are at the competitive bid list, like cabling, obviously, I think, security cameras, locators? I
Yeah,
assume they all do the same.
They all have that,
He
yes.
just charges the one rate, there's no extra fees.
Right, no
like,
extra
you know,
fee for that, right.
Any other questions or comments? All right, I'll entertain a motion to award the general plumber bid to Michelson Plumbing. Am I right?
Sound like you said polar bid.
Oh, well, we got a collective nose, I'm sorry.
So
A
moved.
general plumber bid to Michelson Plumbing.
So moved.
All right, thank you. Motion made by Alderperson Holly, seconded by Alderman Dreyer. If I could have a roll call vote, please.
Alderman Ock?
Yes.
Alderman Deloy,
Yes.
Alderman Dreyer?
Yes.
Alderman Holly?
Yes.
Alderperson Casterly?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Next is the Binkley Woods gazebo project. On this is the second time we've bid this out. My recommendation is that we complete this project within the grounds and maintenance department this spring. The costs are just way out of line for what we're doing. So I think we'd rather just do it in-house.
Not that I ever doubted, but you guys can handle that on time frame and be able to do what you need to do.
Once we finish the 2 projects we've got going, then we'll have time to do this, yes. And we're gonna start, some of this, we're gonna go ahead and start with some other guys and get the main part, poles and everything set, then we can come in and finish it up. And then the last thing I have is the,
Do we need to reject all
oh,
bids?
yeah, I'm sorry.
Motion, make a motion, we reject the bids on the gazebo project.
Second.
Wait a second. Motion made by Alderman Ock and seconded by Alderperson Casterly. Roll call vote, please.
Alderman Deloy,
Yes.
Alderman Dreyer?
Yes.
Alderman Holly?
Yes.
Alderperson Casterly?
Yes.
Alderman Ock?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
The last thing I have is the pool maintenance discussion. We're getting ready to do some painting in the pool. We need to repaint the inside of the pool itself, have it blasted and repainted with 2 coats of epoxy to get us through, hopefully for 2 more years. And then with this should take us through that. So this is just not normal maintenance that we're performing on it. So
will the staff be doing that, or?
no, we're gonna
bid it out?
We have to contract some of this out. Yes, it's going to be some of the blasting and stuff and the prep work, the patching and stuff. We're not capable of doing it, and then the painting is the same way.
So it's reasonable to think that they could get that, we could get a bid out, all done, taken care of, so the pool opening won't be delayed.
Yeah, we're starting fairly soon.
Okay.
See, because they said the paint they're using, it's chemical reaction, so they said really the weather doesn't, other than rain and snow, but if it's sunny out, they can go ahead and get all their prep work done and get the blasting done and everything on it, ready to go.
So they're just doing the pool, they're not doing decks, they're just doing inside?
No, just the plunge pool, the kiddie pool, and the main pool.
Okay.
All those are the ones we've been having. I don't know if any of you have been up here during the summer or at the end here. You can really tell the majority of the paint's gone. It's down to the first epoxy that was put in there. So we got to build that back up, and hopefully this will last us 2 years.
Is there any other questions? All right. Thank you, Brad.
Well, thank you.
All right, next on the agenda, we'll be hearing from Public Works Director Guy Jeevers.
First item I have is the cargo minivan from Joe Mockins Ford for the price of $21,848, and the budget amount was $23,000, and this is a state contract.
Any questions or comments?
Is the state contract consistently beat out other parties' bids?
With us looking, we went to purchase a truck at one time through another dealer, and by the time they did all the add-ons and the shipping and all that, and then it didn't come in the way it was supposed to, we've always had good luck with the low bid being.
The state contract?
On typically it does come in lower than most.
Okay, all right.
All right, any other questions or comments? All right, I'll entertain a motion to award the cargo minivan bid to Joe Mockins Ford in the amount of $21,848, the state bid.
So moved?
Second.
Motion made by Alderman Hawk, seconded by Alderperson Hawley. If I could have a roll call vote, please.
Alderman Deloy,
Yes.
Alderman Dreyer,
Yes.
Alderman Holly,
Yes.
Alderperson Casterly.
Yes.
Alderman Ock.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0. All right,
Next item I have is approval to hire Eric Schneider at $14 an hour as maintenance labor at the wastewater treatment plant, starting February 25th, 2016.
how much was that an hour?
414.
This is a full-time position, right?
Yes, there is.
I'll make the
$14.
motion that we approve the hire of Eric Schneider at $14 an hour for maintenance labor at the wastewater treatment plant with a start date of 2/25/16.
Second.
Motion made by Alderperson Casterly, seconded by Alderperson Hawley. If I could have a roll call vote, please.
Alderman Dreyer,
Yes.
Alderman Holly,
Yes.
Alderperson Casterly.
Yes.
Alderman Ock,
Yes.
Alderman Deloy.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0. Thank you, Guy, appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, next on the agenda would be bills to ordinance. I'll entertain a motion for the first reading of bill number 06-16.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Alderman Dreyer, seconded by Alderperson Hawley.
An ordinance of the City of Warenton, Missouri approving a 90-day moratorium on the enforcement of window coverage limitations for the temporary and permanent window signs.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Is 90 days going to be enough time to get it through P and Z?
For the sign code?
Yeah.
It's on the March 3rd meeting.
It's on the March
Moratorium.
3rd.
So the-
We can, I think we set that up where it can have a 90-day extension too, Alderman Ock.
Okay.
So if we could extend it one time if need be.
Any other questions? Okay. I'll entertain a motion for the second reading and passage of bill number 06-16.
So moved.
Second.
Second. Thank you. Motion made by Alderperson Casterly, second by Alderman Deloy.
An ordinance of the City of Warrenton, Missouri approving a 90-day moratorium on the enforcement of window coverage limitations for temporary and permanent window signs.
Roll call vote, please.
Alderman Holly?
Yes.
Alderperson Casterly?
Yes.
Alderman Ock?
Yes.
Alderman Deloy,
Yes.
Alderman Dreyer?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0. All right, I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Alderperson Casterly, second by Alderman Dreyer. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We are so adjourned.